Welcome to Esoteric Recaps. A dock crane operator named Ray Ferrier leaves his shift in Brooklyn and travels to his house in Bayonne, New Jersey, where he meets his ex-wife Marianne and his two children, Robbie and Rachel. They are all waiting for him when he finally comes, late. Ray notices Marianne is expecting a child. After some discussion over the kids sharing a room and Robbie's homework project that is due on Monday, Marianne and her new husband head to Boston to spend the weekend with her parents. Ray tells his son to join him in the backyard for a game of catch. Ray, a Yankees supporter, observes that Robbie is now donning a Boston Red Sox hat. It becomes obvious that the father and kid have a tense relationship while they play catch. Robbie lets one of Ray's tosses sail by him after they had a brief argument, breaking a window in the basement. Ray will not reach Robbie, says Rachel, by acting aggressively. When Rachel inquires about what they should have for lunch, Ray simply says, "You know, order." To get some rest, Ray goes upstairs to his bedroom. He discovers Rachel watching cartoons in the living room when he finally wakes up after many hours. Robbie having fled with her father's cherished Mustang, she also tells her father. Ray becomes enraged and runs outside to look for Robbie. On the street, people have congregated. Ray observes that everyone is likewise staring north of his block, where a bizarre storm looks to be moving against its natural course. Rachel follows Ray as he enters his backyard. The wind increases, but it is now blowing into the storm. Several lightning strikes the earth at once, some of them dangerously close to Ray's yard. In their haste to get to the house for safety, he and Rachel discover that the electricity is out and that all the clocks have stopped. Both Ray's watch and his phone have stopped working. He goes outside after asking Rachel to stay inside and saw Robbie there. His son had driven his car downtown and left it there after it broke down. Ray gives Robbie the task of watching his sister till he returns. The proprietor of the car repair company, Manny, informs Ray as he walks by that the starter on the minivan he is inspecting has burned out. Manny is instructed to replace the solenoid by Ray. Ray travels by foot to the lightning strike location in the city. Around a sizable hole in the pavement, a crowd is collected. When Ray touches a section of the damaged pavement, he discovers that it is quite cold. Everyone disperses as the ground beneath the hole suddenly surges upward. A vehicle that accidentally entered the hold gets thrown out. A large contraption that stands on 3 stilts emerges from the hole and scans the crowds. It emits a loud blast like a foghorn, and as the crowd disperses, it starts to incinerate dozens of individuals with blasts of heat beams. As the beams strike them, they are instantaneously reduced to ash. Ray flees through a department store while being covered in the ash from an unfortunate victim. Ray observes the terrifying contraption pass by while hiding behind a building. When a man runs by carrying his own child, he is brought back to Robbie and Rachel. Ray returns home in complete disbelief. He informs both of his children that they must leave right away, while hardly speaking to them and cleaning the ash off his face and hair. Robbie is instructed to take everything out of Ray's refrigerator, while Ray gets a tiny revolver and tucks it into his belt. They travel to Manny's garage and enter the minivan the mechanic was repairing. As a result of the solenoid replacement, the vehicle is now able to move. Prior to Ray telling him in a serious tone to come with them, Manny assumes that Ray is making fun of him. The neighboring Bayonne bridge collapses as he orders Ray to exit the vehicle. Ray leaves quickly as his kids start to worry, especially Rachel, who has a fear of small spaces. She is being comforted by Robbie. Ray informs Robbie of the machine and the damage it wrought. Ray intends to bring his children to a secure location, possibly their mother and stepfather's home. When they get there, Marianne's home is abandoned. Following a brief disagreement among the three about what to eat, Ray leads them to the basement, where they will spend the night. Ray wakes up after a few hours of troubled sleep to the sound of an audible roar coming from outside. As a wall of flames approaches, the three sprint into the utility room in the basement and shut the door. Ray finds the majority of the house destroyed when he goes upstairs after waking up many hours later. The disturbance from the previous evening was brought on by a nearby plane crash. Ray notices a worker clearing out the food service carts in the plane's wreckage as he passes by. Ray learns that he is there with a female reporter and is a cameraman for a news network. Ray is informed by the woman that all of the reports on the tripods are consistent in that once they begin to move, no further news or reports are received from the region they target. When Ray informs the woman that he is not a survivor of the plane crash, the woman and her crew hastily depart. Ray gathers his family, and they board the minivan once more to go. After a bit of driving, they stop when Rachel wants to use the restroom. She refuses to go as far as Ray would have her go and pauses by a creek. She scans the surface of the lake and notices dozens of floating bodies. She is horrified by the sight, until Ray unexpectedly spots her and chastises her for getting too lost. Once again, an army convoy is passing by the truck. Robbie wants to join them in their battle against the invaders and appears to be filled with rage. Ray makes an effort to persuade Robbie that the concept of them enlisting in the army is absurd. Ray gives Robbie a temporary driving permit so that he and his daughter can get some rest. They arrive in a little community where evacuees have assembled. The crowd suddenly turns against Ray's family and demands their car. The mob drags Ray and Robbie out of the truck and beats them. When Rachel starts to panic, Ray collects himself and uses his gun to order the crowd to move back a little. A little while later, he is forced to put down his gun when Ray is approached by another man who is desperate to steal the truck for himself. Ray is allowed to remove Rachel from the vehicle and leave. The man who stole the minivan is assaulted as the crowd turns violent once more. The family keeps moving along with the evacuee crowds. A train speeds by at a railroad crossing while being completely on fire. The family is waiting for one of the boats to take them across the river at a ferry crossing in Athens, New York. When Ray runs across a woman he knows, her own daughter is also with her. Nearby, the sound of the alien cry can be heard, and the mob starts to rush the vessel. Army security personnel seal the gates and bar Ray, his companion, and their children from entering. Only Ray and his children are permitted to board the boat after they manage to get past the gates and reach it. Robbie notices that several individuals are attempting to scale the ramp of the ship and goes to assist them. Another tripod attacks the ferry as it crosses the river, flipping it over and dumping vehicles and passengers into the water. Tentacles from the tripod are pulling people out of the water as Ray and the kids surface and swim toward the shore. Ray and the children reach the other shore. As they flee covertly, they notice clothes falling from the sky. The family continues to stroll while passing by an extraterrestrial and army combat. Robbie finds himself mesmerized by the combat that is taking place over a hill while jets fly overhead. Ray and Rachel beg for him to return as Robbie approaches it. Army men stop Robbie at the top of the slope after he ignores them. Ray approaches Robbie after leaving Rachel behind a tree and informs him that he should not get entangled, and that his sister is really concerned about him. Ray reluctantly agrees to let Robbie leave because he knows he must protect his daughter and that he cannot stop his son's fixation. Robbie is adamant that he must see the war. Just after a last-ditch helicopter assault fails to stop the tripods, Ray picks up Rachel. After Robbie sprints over the hill, the last thing Ray sees is a tripod looming over a firewall. It also becomes clear that the tripods have a shield around them that shields them from all bombardment. A man who owns a nearby residence calls Ray and Rachel at precisely that moment. Ogilvy, the proprietor, offers them refuge in his basement. Ray soon learns that Ogilvy has a history of mental instability and intends to tunnel out of the basement. The group hides after hearing several loud noises coming from the upstairs, sending a snake-like probe into the cellar. The group narrowly escapes detection, and the probe is removed a short while later. 3 of the aliens later enter the basement. They have 3 legs and are quite inquisitive. Ogilvy is also prevented from shooting them by Ray since he knows the noise will only draw more of them. When their trumpet blows, the aliens take off. Ray also learns that the aliens are using the blood of humans they have taken to fertilize a weird, quickly expanding red vine that blankets the countryside. After learning this, Ogilvy becomes incredibly furious, frantically digging in his basement while muttering, "Not my blood!" Ray understands that if Ogilvy keeps behaving in the same manner, he will only get worse, and they will all be discovered. Ray tries to soothe the man one last time but is unsuccessful. While he confronts and kills Ogilvy from behind a closed door, Ray commands Rachel to put on her headphones and listen to her music. He leaves the room, and Ray and Rachel drift off to sleep. When Rachel wakes up, she notices that they have been found and that the alien probe has returned. Rachel has left the house, so Ray uses an axe to remove the probe's eye. In time for her to be photographed by a tripod, Ray dashes outside. Ray is knocked over by the tripod when it attacks him, as he shelters in a nearby Humvee. Ray uses a grenade from a belt he discovers to re-engage the tripod after it loses interest in him. It lifts him into an underslung cage with other humans using a tentacle. Rachel is found by Ray and is utterly shocked. A huge valve opens overhead, sucking up one of the prisoners as Ray devises a plan of escape. The valve then makes an attempt to grab Ray, who escapes with the explosive belt. His fellow prisoners drag him back while holding onto his arm. Ray demonstrates to a soldier that he has removed the pins from 2 of the explosives when he landed in the cage. They detonate inside the tripod, which releases the cage, which then falls to the ground and releases everyone. Ray and Rachel arrive in Boston to find signs of the alien invasion waning. The once thriving red weeds are drying up and dying, and the towering tripods appear to be failing. They observe one tripod behaving erratically, and Ray notices a flock of birds circling and landing on the machine, signaling that its protective force field is no longer active. Acting quickly, Ray alerts nearby soldiers, who launch an attack and successfully destroy the machine. As they approach the fallen tripod, a hatch opens, spilling a mass of red weed-like material and exposing a dying alien inside. Ray and Rachel continue their journey and arrive at Mary Ann's parents' home, where they are reunited with her. And, to their astonishment, Robbie, who has miraculously survived the chaos. Like and subscribe for more notifications. Thanks for watching.